was amazing.
Và xài
Hi, my name is Martin Ectes. I'm a multi-award-winning innovator. I've worked for companies like Nokia Networks, where I introduced them to cloud in 2009. I did the cloud strategy for Ubuntu, as well as sort of the IoT business, which is now the second biggest for Canonical. In LNG, I was Chief Innovation Officer, launched lots of things like putting the reinsurance business on the blockchain, AI chatbots, and so on. And I'm now helping startups and scale-ups innovate around AI and Web3. So if you need a fractional CTO, CPO, and I'm doing some really interesting open source stuff around AI agents.
Hi, my name is Tal Hadas. Throughout most of my career, I worked in really big companies, tech tech roles, and then leadership roles. But really wanted to have more influence. To move to the startup world about 10 years ago. Helped scaling 3 companies. Started with one of the biggest one was Tray.io, started with 20 people, reached more than 300, and recently worked as the VP of engineering in a company called Veritrack, helped scale them as well.
So a lot of people jump straight into building a solution because they think everybody has a problem. But the annoying thing about the attention economy is that, like, you can build it, but they will no longer come. You just have to talk to people. You just have to find out what's the problem and how to get people interested in your solution and part with their money. And that is a lot of work. It is annoying work, but if you don't do it, then you will not go anywhere.
I can add to one thing that a lot of times happens. The difference between an MVP and a product is there's a big jump there, and a lot of founders think that the A is the MVP, so there's not a lot of work on moving to the real product, not thinking about a lot of other elements like scalability, security, and those kind of things. The best thing founders can do is do a really big research. And one other thing I think is going very well for founders is the ability to know that they don't know everything. That sometimes they need to ask for help.
Okay, those are some very good points. Thank you very much to both of you, gentlemen. Right, another quick reset then before we start taking some questions. For those of you that are tuning in via the live streams, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram for that matter, please be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions live. So if you do have any questions, you need to join us live here in terms of our call here on Microsoft Teams. The idea is quite simple. You can either join via the links that are on those live streams, or if you can't access them for any reason, please go to startuptoscaleup.club, where you can find today's session, which is Startup Product and Tech Q&A, And then after that, you click on that, click join. It's a quick registration. That gets you a link to your email, and you can then join us via that link right here on Microsoft Teams. For those of you that are on Microsoft Teams or will get to Microsoft Teams, the procedure is simple. You type your question in the chat, and then we give you the mic to ask our panelists. If today your questions are not on product and tech, and again, product and tech questions can be on anything from product roadmap to design to prototype to automation, apps, full stack, tech debt, landing pages, launching your MVP and beyond for that matter. So there are no wrong questions and there's no need to be shy. If, however, your questions are on other matters, please save them for the other events we run. Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising, second Friday of the month it's law, and third Friday of the month it's finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. You can RSVP to any of them via our site, startuptoscaleup.club. And while you're there, you might actually want to join WhatsApp community. There's a WhatsApp icon top and bottom of that site. Now, there was a question sent to us, and I'll put that in the chat, Martin and Tal. So she says, our AI-driven marketing analytics startup in Edinburgh needs to process high-volume data from various channels. Each feature, social media, email, web analytics, currently shares resources, slowing down and processing speeds. How can we build a microservices architecture that segments these functions without risking data loss? And what best practices ensure our microservices handle peak loads effectively? Ooh, okay, bit of a heavy start. Martin, do you want to start on this? And then if Tal would like to add anything as well, obviously, more than welcome to.
So I'm reading it a couple of times. So basically, it's using various channels. So like that means it's connected to email and social media and like the web, and they share resources, slowing down processing speeds. So how can you segment these functions without risking data loss, and what best practices ensure our microservices handle peak loads effectively? So first of all, there seems to be a lot of state inside microservices, and that is what you shouldn't do. So try to make a microservice that like you can repetitively like invoke it, and it gets its state from like a database or a config at like invocation, so that you can actually invoke multiple microservices at the same time. So if it goes too slow, you could like do multiple things at the same time, and as such, the overall time should be shorter. There also seems to be a problem with like slowing down processing speed. One other paradigm in microservices is to basically use a messaging bus for like things that don't need a real-time response. So if there's a lot of like analytics that you need afterwards, but you don't need for the user, well, send that as a message and have some other process listen to like those messages and then introduce it. So that if there's a lot of load at a certain moment, only that they will be added afterwards. And then another thing that like might be interesting is serverless. So basically, if you have like requests coming in at like 9 o'clock in the morning, but not at 3 o'clock in the morning, then in a serverless architecture, you basically wake up as many parallel serverless functions as necessary. And then afterwards, they go to sleep and they don't consume any more resources or cost you any money. So those type of architectures could really help if you have a sort of like service that has very much high peak hours. Think about a Netflix where like at night everybody turns on the television, but during the day or at 3 o'clock in the morning, a lot less. So those type of things you can do for high performance.
I can also add before. Sorry, have you finished?
Yes.
Okay. Microservices. Before going there, if the team is very, very small, that could be a real issue. It's a big hassle for a very small team. So you have to be careful before going there. And the second thing I would advise is to know very, very, very well what are your processes. Usually a lot of tech debt can harm pretty badly going to microservices. You have to, before start to plan your microservices, know very, very well all your processes and everything that works. And based on that, then go and try and change your architecture to microservices. I have seen it before that, you just go and start running with stuff and suddenly you see a few processes and services that nobody knew about, and one of the founding engineers wrote like 2 years ago, and now everything just falls apart. So that's also very, very important to remember.
Well, that is some brilliant stuff from both of you. I really appreciate that. We've got a question now in the chat from Chris. Chris, I'm giving you the mic. Perfect. You should be able to talk now. Can you hear us? Hello, Chris.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, buddy. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you for the question. Please introduce yourself and then fire away with the question, rather.
Thank you very much, and nice to meet you guys. So my name is Chris. So I'm the CEO for Goldilocks AI. Essentially, what we are doing is we help business buy data very easily and affordably. So the question I have today for the guests is, for an early stage startup, how to leverage data to really gain competitive advantage for your product or your operations, and kind of what type of data are the most crucial from your experience? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Chris. And just before I go to my team, Chris, do you have something specific in mind here? Is there anything you're thinking of, or is it quite generic?
I think we can treat it as a generic question. Really, what I will help me understand is, in the shoe of an early stage startup, in that environment, how to really use data to really help to build a strong product.
And when you say data, are we talking data based on that product, or the data that they're utilizing, or is it to get to certain metrics?
Any data, whether it's first hand or third-party data.
Thank you very much for that. It's not always easy for our panelists to give the best answers to generic questions, but I'm sure they will take a crack at it. I think, Tyler, you've unmuted, so go ahead, go first, buddy.
Yeah, usually customer behavior and what they do, and if you can analyze that and give them insights, that's pure gold. The best thing to do is to do a very, very good research and to understand where are the pains that you're trying to solve. Basically, if you open a company and you have an idea, you're trying to solve a real problem. So understand what is the real problem and see what data is available there, and try to see what value you can give based on that data. For example, if there's a supermarket, nobody cares about inventory. There's a million apps for that. But if you can analyze the behavior of the customer and give suggestions based on that, that's way better. If you can see that, let's say after school, kids come and buy a lot of chocolate, then for certain times, that's valuable information. Just one example. I hope it answers your question.
Okay, that's an interesting take. Thank you, Tal. Martin?
Yeah, so Chris, I have some questions. So you're a data marketplace yourself, and are you asking like what data should you be selling, or are you just more interested in somebody going to the data marketplace? What are the click streams and other things that you need to look for to like improve your revenues?
Yeah, so ultimately we are looking to really understand like what type of data should we cover. But I think instead of just wanting to understand that, I also want to understand like from a startup perspective, what data are important to them and how do they use them. So I think that's kind of want to figure out the root cause of having those data is important to me.
Okay, so what is common data that startups need and where they would go to your marketplace to buy that data? So one of the companies I work with, they're not a startup or they've been in business and they're generating revenues, but they're trying to scale those, is around like emails. So basically, one of the things they sell is just like, hey, I need emails of this and this and this type of like companies or profiles. So if I want to go and talk to like VPs of marketing, what are their emails? So that's sort of like data that if you have access to it in more traditional email-based businesses, they would like. Now, translate that today and like the latest and greatest startups, they probably are doing less and less email campaigns, but more targeting, for instance, influencers. So that could be a type of like data that startups would like to know, like which influencers, micro influencers specifically, are important for my market. What are things that you know about them that like could help us get their attention? It's those type of things that could help. And then also around like being able to get into contact with potential customers. Like how can I get to speak to lots of like, if I am looking for teenagers in a certain bracket that have a certain this or that. So today's biggest problem is getting attention from people. So if you have ways to get into contact with those people, then like I think startups will pay for that, because for them it's hard to get attention. So either through influencers or direct connections, be it Telegram handles or WhatsApp numbers or whatever. Does that make sense?
Thank you. I think that's very helpful. Thank you.
Very welcome. Thank you very much for the question, Chris. And please feel free to join us again. Would love to hear on your progress on what you're working with your marketplace. We now have only 32 minutes to go. So I guess a quick reset of the conversation, and then we'll move on to the next question. I've put another question in the chat for my panelists if you'd like to read it now, but I'll read it out loud for the live streams in a minute. So this is Startup Product and Tech Q&A. We do this every Tuesday from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, where we seek to help startups like yourselves with whatever questions you have whilst building your early stage, whether that's product roadmap, design, prototype, automation, landing pages, full stack apps, tech debts, testing, or launching your MVP, and anything in between and beyond for that matter. 30 something minutes will fly away way quicker than we'd like. So if you do have any questions, just put them in the chat now and I'll give you the mic, and you'll then be able to ask the panelists. If, however, you're tuning in via the live streams, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please remember that we are unable to monitor your questions there, unfortunately. So you'd have to join us live here on Microsoft Teams. You can either click the links, the Microsoft links that I've placed on those live streams, or simply go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club, Look for today's session, which is Startup Product and Tech Q&A 147. Click join. It's a quick registration. You then get an email with the link of this call, and you can then join us via this call. So again, type your question in the chat if you've got any questions for us, please. If, however, your questions are not on product and tech, then save them for the other events we run. Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising, second Friday of the month, UK Startup Law, and third Friday of the month, UK Startup Finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And you can RSVP to any of them via our site, startuptoscaleup.club. And actually, when you're there, join our WhatsApp community of founders, investors, and operators. You'll also get alerts to future conversations. So this question is from a prop tech co-founder, in Birmingham. She's at seed stage, and she used to work as an estate agent. So the problem, she says, is creating a digital platform for tenants to manage rental properties and report maintenance issues. So that's what she's trying to solve. Then she goes on to say, we've launched our MVP, but many landlords are slow to adopt it due to concerns about managing payments online. How can we address these concerns through product features or partnerships and accelerate landlord onboarding? Well, I'll go before I pass this on to the experts. As somebody who's had dealings with the sort of property world and estate agency world and a few kind of similar businesses in the past, especially in this day and age, unless there's something concerning, and I don't see why landlords will have a problem with online payments. Everybody's doing that today. So you might want to go and a bit deeper and drill down into the reason. But in terms of the tech and product side of it, let's see what our experts got to say. So perhaps this time we can start with Martin and then Tal, please.
So my biggest question is, do you have market fit already? Because it seems to be that you're trying to solve a landlord's problem that might not be their biggest problem. So rental payments often just are like monthly payments that come off your bank account. So that might not be a big issue, but there might be other issues. So when you say report maintenance issues, it's probably the tenant that like has an issue, and the landlord often just ignores tenants or has a lot of hassle. So I think potentially focusing on that area first and being sort of the platform where landlords have to do less and tenants get faster resolutions. So that could be anything from like, hey, there's a certain like budget that like if there is an urgent issue and it's within the budget, then it automatically is approved. And now there are like tradespeople that the tenant directly can interact with through the digital platform that can go and fix it. So those type of things would mean that the landlord doesn't have to be involved in stupid things. Tradespeople could be really interested in being part of your platform because it automatically gives them work. And for tenants, it's super easy because they now don't have to chase the landlord for all types of things. And then the other area, if it's higher cost, that at least you can simplify the process again for both sides. The tenant saying, hey, this is broken, let's say the boiler, then like automatically your process could like have solutions from like plumbers, and the landlord could now just have to approve twice that like, yes, this solution should go to the plumbers, and yes, I'm willing to pay this, go ahead. And then again, the tenants can deal with things without the landlord having to be involved. So those type of things probably more important to both sides than a monthly payment, which can just be automated.
In terms of building trust with the landlords, the few things you can do. The first thing is there are a few protocols that are known and used. So if you follow them and publish in your website and tell them we follow that protocol, and you're compliant, so that can help. The second thing is you can explain how this is saving them time and money and show the benefits. Other thing you can do, you can integrate with existing systems that usually the landlords use, like QuickBooks or Xero or something like that. And the other thing is maybe a partnership with property management. So you have someone already using it, so you can come to landlord and see these are people already using it by the partnership. And as always, customer support and educate them to do those things. So I guess if you do all of those, you can go past this.
Well, those are some brilliant answers. Thank you very much to both of you, Tal and Martin. KK Kudra has asked a question in the chat. Kudra, I will post a link to our fundraising event that we do on Thursday. So you've asked, I'm looking to develop an app in the hospitality industry and wondering how I would go on to acquire funding from investors for such a project. What are the steps involved? If you don't mind, since today is on product and tech, we'd like to keep it focused on that, please, Kudra. But I would love to see what we can help you with. We've got at least 4 amazing investors joining us on Thursday at 12 o'clock. And I'll post the link of that in the chat where you can register and join us then on Thursday. Please let me know if that's okay. Yep, perfect, brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Right, we'll now go to another question that was sent in to us. And again, for those of you that are tuning in via the live streams, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions there. I can see my phone pinging with messages, so it's probably questions coming through or comments. Again, you'll need to join us here on Microsoft Teams, and you can either do that through the links we've got there or simply going to our website, startuptoscaleup.club. Then through there, find today's session, which is Startup Product and Tech Q&A 147. You click join. It's a quick registration, and that brings you to our call here on Microsoft Teams. It's audio only, which means that you've got total flexibility and accessibility for that matter too. Once you're here, then simply type your question in the chat and we'll give you the mic if it's product or tech related. So another question that came through, this is a sports tech founder. She's based in Leeds. They're pre-seed, used to be a sports coach. The problem is developing an app that tracks performance for amateur athletes. We're debating whether to offer a free version of our app. How do we design a freemium model without cannibalizing potential paid users? This is a very good question, and we get this quite often. Tal, would you like to go first on this? And then we go to Martin, please.
Yes. I would go to the market and do some research. There's quite a few great examples like Spotify and I think LinkedIn even. When Microsoft acquired LinkedIn, they changed a lot of features. So now it's much more effective to have the paid version. So I would start with that. After that, just define a clear definition, what is going to be the free version and what's going to be in the paid version. Offer from time to time a taste of the premium features and make the premium feature feel essential for the next step. If you're just starting, the free stuff are great, but if you want to take it to the next level, then the premium features would be essential for that. And yeah, maybe multiple pricing tiers and offers. That's what I can think of right now.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, Martin.
Yeah, so and I don't know if it applies for amateur athletes, but in general, most freemium models have a sort of limit. So if you can record 20 runs for free every like in total, or 5 runs per month or something, then like the real like starters have enough. But over time they get hooked, and then they run into that limit, and now will pay for that limit to go away. But they're already seeing the value, they're already hooked into the value of your app. Then another way is to have like basic features, and then have really important features for like more advanced users that they want to unlock. I could think about advanced analytics type of things. So hey, you get some basic things, but if you pay, then like there's all these extra things that you can have. Then another way of having a freemium model is to make it free for the amateur athletes and have others pay to be put in contact with them. So that's a totally different model, but you can see without naming brands that a lot of brands would be interested in selling shoes to a lot of amateur athletes. So if you have an amateur athlete app with like 1 million athletes on their tracking things, then like brands will handsomely pay to show new product introductions to them or have an embedded store. And then the last thing that you might actually want to do is create things that bring virality in the market. So I could easily see that virtual competitions and so on could be part of that. And there could be then premium things to basically be part of the top leagues and so on, so that like people that like want to be in those things want to pay for that because they want to show off to others and so on. So really divide between what an amateur that like runs once or twice a month to like somebody that would use this every day would use, and let them very quickly go from the free to the paid through unlocking to like hitting limits to potentially just making the app free, but like getting others to pay. And definitely don't forget virality, because if I can bring in all my friends and now compete against them, and then unlock to then compete against others and so on, then it can also bring more users that way.
That is just amazing. I really like that idea of the virality side of it. And, in a nutshell, and I know I'm repeating here what Martin as well as Tal said, but if you can make it in a way so that people get hooked in it, and then it kind of becomes almost more hassle to stop using it than actually pay whatever fee you have, then you've got it cracked. And obviously, the network effect can be really useful. Things like you recommend somebody, they get 10% off and you get 10% off. That kind of incentive tends to work with people as well. But in terms of the emotional side that Martin said, about that competition, that is spot on. And not just competition, but also in terms of amateur athletes, people want somebody to spot them, somebody to encourage them. And often they may choose to do this with friends or family or other people that are not based in the exact spot where they are, so that they can monitor and help each other. I would focus on those two. Rightio, we now have 16 minutes to go. We probably have time for another 2 questions. We're here to help startups with whatever questions you have as you build your product or tech. And those questions can be on anything to do with that, from product roadmap all the way to MVP and anything in between or beyond for that matter. We also run a few other sessions, but for those of you that are tuning in via the live streams, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, one more time, just remember we're unable to monitor your questions there live. So please feel free to join us here on Microsoft Teams. Either click the links we've placed there, or simply go to our site, startuptoscaleup.club, where we where we can take your questions, really. So all you have to do is just type your question in the chat, and here on Microsoft Teams, it's live audio only, by the way, and then we'll give you the mic to ask our panelists. If, however, your questions today are on other matters, like I think, was it Kudra? Yeah, Kudra here, who asked about investment and fundraising, then join our other sessions we do. So Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising, second Friday of the month UK startup law, and third Friday of the month UK startup finances. That all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And you can RSVP to any of them by our site, startuptoscaleup.club. I think I'll put another question in the chat. Pranav, you've asked in the chat, could you please share the links to growth, finance, talent, Q&A? Pranav, simply go to startuptoscaleup.club/events and click on future events, and you'll see all of them, and you can then RSVP to any future event that you choose. So I'll put that link in the chat just in case. And now I think, where is it? Yep. So this is from a travel tech. Our travel tech app in Cardiff connects users with unique UK travel experiences. We're planning to test different onboarding flows to increase conversion, but our team is new to A/B testing. Could you outline a systematic approach for setting up these experiments? And what metrics should we prioritize to evaluate success accurately? Martin, do you want to go first and then we go to Tal?
Yeah, so A and B testing, and there's even more advanced versions than just A and B testing, is something that sets apart the Me Too and the leaders. So leading companies use data to decide on product features in like SaaS and apps, whereas others use personal opinion. So if you look at like onboarding, it's all about how many people get to the starting page and like finish in the main homepage. Do they all get through that process? Can we simplify things? Can we like basically make it that like we ask less questions and potentially defer some things until you have seen value, and now we need to get that extra thing. So those are the type of like experiments you can be doing. So the more you shorten the set of questions and the set of activities somebody has to do before they see value, the better. So if you can like do experiments around that would be very helpful. Then to talk a little bit about like what's best in industry, companies like Amazon have like really nailed this down. So they continuously do experiments where development teams can deploy new versions that like are then tested with a small subset of users. And if those are successful, then perhaps 1% sees it and they measure how many users successfully signed up, or what's the drop-off rate, and like, is this experiment better at minimizing drop-offs than another option? And as such, if they then find that like something works, they basically get to go from 1% to now this is the default 100% or 99% if there's another experiment happening. So you can do this continuously, but there's some tools available on a lot of platforms to help you do these type of tests. You can also see other forms of A and B testing. ChatGPT often shows you two alternatives. So if there's like different ways that people could sign up, you could just show them like, hey, this is the fast way, but then afterwards you'll ask more questions. This is the thorough way if you really want this or that. So those type of things are all possible, and you should like make this sort of like your company culture of being able to deploy something and then scaling it up. But it will require maturity. So this is not a one thing. It's continuously improving this over time.
My take on that would be the first thing before you start is to have a really, really good understanding, a very good definition of the objectives of this A/B testing and what are you trying to test here. So you have to make a very good and clear statement of what you're trying to do and what you're trying to test before you start. And based on that, you can prepare the key metrics. Usually it's like conversion rates and user engagement and session duration and click rates and all those kind of things, but very much dependent on what you define as success rates. Yeah, I totally agree with what Martin said before, and there's a lot of ways to do it, like feature flags. For example, you decide to send it to a certain control group that you know that are more friendly users, and you can address just them with the new feature in the A/B testing and get their get the response, and based on that, move forward.
Well, thank you very much to both of you for that. Okay, we've got 8 minutes to go. I think we've got time for one more question, and then we can wrap it up with some parting words from our brilliant panelists. So this one is from a health tech founder. They're based in Cambridge. Okay, based in Cambridge recently. Oh, last week. Okay, last week raised a small Series A. Congratulations. Used to be a doctor. We're developing a wearable device for early disease detection. Our product roadmap is focused on hardware updates. They put in brackets, they cost more. I'm assuming that's why. Okay. But we've been slow to integrate software features that users have requested. How do we balance how do we balance hardware innovation with software development to maintain momentum? Martin and Tal, you can read this in the chat. I'll just put it here, but I read it for the live streams. Tal, would you like to go first on this?
Sorry, I was muted.
No worries.
If you don't have an answer, I can go when you have some time if you want.
Yeah, you can start. Let me think about it a bit more.
Yeah, so I worked in IoT before, and in IoT you always had like this thing where like hardware and software need to work together. Now wearables is definitely on like the hardest part of like IoT, because you often have to like shrink down battery capacity, processing capacity, so that people can actually wear this around. So like that clearly limits your software capabilities. But on the other side, and I don't know, it's not really saying what type of wearable and how much like processing power you have, but should you be able to create a software ecosystem on top of hardware, even if it means slightly more expensive hardware, always go for that, because what it basically does is it means that every customer can now personalize the hardware to their needs. And you could come up with new use cases after shipping the hardware, because the hardware is often sort of like a barrier to entry. You can only like have a customer after they've purchased and used the hardware, but you would be able to potentially upsell them more things if like your hardware could be extended with new functionality. So unlocking new features and so on could, just like we saw on the freemium part before, could be something that people pay for beyond the original hardware. So it depends very, very heavily on like what type of wearable device you have and if you have the capabilities. But nowadays you have things like WASM and lots of like super optimized things that could like bring apps that are measured in kilobytes to the device. So you could actually enable apps and specific app stores for your device, and then personalize it and upsell features. So if that's possible, that would be definitely something to explore. Always happy to have a call about that, because I've looked into that. I've set up app stores for devices before.
Thank you very much, Martin. And just before we go to Tal, Martin, I have tagged both of you on the live stream on LinkedIn. So the last tag should be, I think, the share that I made of that on my profile from our page. Would you mind just typing the name of that, whatever that tool for optimizing apps was called? Can you hear me, Martin?
Can, but something got in front of the mute button.
That's all right.
Yeah, the tool to optimizing apps. Sorry, what are you referring
to? I thought you mentioned a name for a tool to optimize those apps.
Yes. So it's not a tool. It's a new technology. But like,
okay. I'm sorry.
Let me put that in the
LinkedIn tag. So in the live stream, please, if you don't mind, or even better, if you can find a handy article that explains how people can do that. Sorry, I know I'm giving you homework, but it could be useful.
Yeah.
Good man. Thank you very much. Tal, what would you do in this case?
Yeah, I worked with the same as Martin with IoT product a long time ago, though. Probably a few things have changed, but what stood out is that the software team and hardware team has to work together, because a lot of times they work separately, and when they need to bring something to the table, then things start to break, or there are different experiences. So they have to work together, and there's some way that needs to align them. In terms of the roadmap, I would emphasize on using short-term wins for the software side of things, and be very careful about hardware improvements, because they are very costly and take some time. Yeah.
No. I sorry. I thought that was it. My bad. Carry on.
That's my 2 cents.
That's good. All right. Well, thank you very much to both of you, gentlemen. Really appreciate your input and time today. I think, well, we've only got 2 minutes to go, so probably best we wrap it up for today. Huge thanks to everyone that tuned in. Apologies for the initial delay. I had some trouble with my laptop. So it's partly my fault that I didn't start it earlier, but nevertheless, let's start with with Tal, who's his first time that joined, and then we can go to Martin. Any parting words for us before we let you go, Tal?
Any what? Sorry.
Any parting words? Anything you would like to end this conversation with? That is.
I guess always have a good plan. Don't act without a plan. It's easy to just go with the flow, or there's a lot of discussion about companies with 3 people and AI doing 100 million ARR. Just be careful, have a plan, and do the right thing.
Good one. Thank you very much for that, Tom, and thanks for joining us today. Martin.
Traction, traction, traction. Like, focus on that and the rest will come. If you can get people to be excited about like a solution you build for that product and they part with your money and you can get many of those, that is the hardest part today. You can build anything with AI, you can do anything very easily, but finding that traction, that is the hard part. So focus on that. Don't think the other way around, that if you build it, they will come.
Here, that is brilliant. Thank you very much to both of you. Really appreciate your just a quick sort of announcement / reminder. We run 6 regular sessions: Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising, second Friday of the month it's UK startup law, and third Friday of the month it's UK startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and you can join us via our site. So if you go to startuptoscaleup.club, you can RSVP to any future session that you wish to. It's a quick registration, and then you get a link to your email on how to join us. They're all live audio and audio only here on Microsoft Teams. And actually, when you're on our site, join our WhatsApp community as well. It's a community of founders, investors, and operators that we run, and that will also get you alerts to future sessions. As far as my parting words are concerned, just remember the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime and be kind to yourself and everyone else for that matter too. Otherwise, have a great afternoon. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for Startup Growth. We've got 3 brilliant growth experts. Thank you and God bless. Bye-bye for now.